A mother leans toward her son across a crowded room and whispers 4 words that will change human history. The room is packed. The air is thick with the smell of roasted lamb, crushed herbs, and cheap wine. Musicians are playing, children are running between the tables. A bride is sitting beside her new husband, her hair uncovered for the first time in her life. And somewhere in the middle of this celebration, a woman named Mary crosses the room to find her 30-year-old son. She watched him take his first breath in a stable in Bethlehem. She taught him his first words. She has been waiting 30 years for him to become what an angel once told her he would be. And tonight, she decides the waiting is over. She leans in and says 4 words. They have no wine. He tries to refuse her. She refuses to take no for an answer. And in the next 10 minutes, Jesus of Nazareth performs his first public miracle and begins the ministry that will end on a Roman cross. All of it, every sermon, every healing, every parable, the cross, the empty tomb, started because his mother decided it was time. Before we walk into the room, you need to understand what a first-century Galilean wedding actually looked like. A Galilean wedding lasted 7 days, sometimes longer. It was the biggest celebration a village would see all year. The whole community came. Everyone ate, everyone drank, everyone stayed. Archaeologists have excavated Cana, one of the most likely sites for the biblical Cana. They have found stone houses, courtyards, ritual baths, and a limestone quarry that produced large stone jars. The exact kind of jars John describes in this story. Those jars matter. They tell you this wedding is happening in a family that takes Jewish purity laws seriously. Stone was used because stone was believed to resist ritual impurity. A family with 6 large stone jars was a family with means, possibly even a priestly family. Cana is listed in Jewish tradition as one of the villages where priestly families lived. Picture it. A stone courtyard open to the sky. Long tables pushed together, oil lamps burning, huge platters of roasted lamb, lentils, olives, dates. 6 enormous stone jars standing along one wall, each one holding 20 to 30 gallons of water for ritual washing. The village is here. The extended family is here. And in the middle of it all, Mary, already there when Jesus arrives, which means she has some role in the celebration. She is not a guest. She is involved. Now understand what it meant to run out of wine. In first-century Galilee, hospitality was not a nice thing to do. It was the law of the village. If you invited guests and you could not give them enough bread, enough meat, enough wine, you would be shamed. Publicly, permanently. Your family name would carry it for generations. Some Jewish legal traditions even held that running out of provisions at a wedding was grounds for a lawsuit from the guests. That is how serious it was. And now the wine is gone. The servants know first. Then the chief steward, the man running the whole celebration. He is probably panicking quietly in a corner. The bridegroom does not know yet. The guests do not know yet. But within the hour, everyone will know, and the family will never recover. Except Mary sees it. She notices. The wine is running out. The disaster is coming, and nobody has a plan. She looks across the room, and she sees her son. Now pause, because this is the part nobody explains. Jesus has not performed a single miracle yet. John 2:11. This, the first of his signs, Jesus did at Cana. The first, not one of many. The first. So what does Mary know that makes her walk across the room to a son who has never healed a single person, never multiplied a single loaf, never walked on water, and expect him to fix this? She knows what she's been carrying for 30 years. She knows an angel came to her in a dark room when she was 14. She knows she conceived without a man. She knows shepherds came to a Bethlehem stable and said her baby was the Messiah. She knows Simeon held her 40-day-old son in the temple and called him the salvation of Israel. She knows her 12-year-old boy sat among the rabbis and astonished them. For 30 years, Mary has watched him grind grain, carry water, learn Joseph's trade, bury his earthly father, live the ordinary life of a Galilean villager. For 30 years, she's been waiting for the promise to become real. And now, in the middle of a wedding that is about to become a public disaster, Mary decides, the waiting is over. It is time. And subscribe right now if you want to watch a mother single-handedly force the Son of God to begin his ministry. Because what happens next is the most underrated moment in the entire gospel. She walks over to him. He is probably talking to his new disciples. He has maybe 5 of them at this point. Andrew, Peter, Philip, Nathanael, who is actually from Cana, and maybe the reason the whole family is here in the first place. Mary leans in, and she does not ask. She does not explain. She does not make a suggestion. She simply says, "They have no wine." 4 words. She is not telling him the news. She is telling him to do something about it. Every mother in your audience knows exactly how this sentence is delivered. It is not a question. It is an assignment. And Jesus knows it, because his response is one of the most startling lines in the Gospels. "Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." Modern readers flinch at this. Woman? That sounds cold. But in 1st century Aramaic and Greek, addressing a woman as woman was not rude. It was the same word Jesus uses from the cross when he looks at his mother and says, "Woman, behold your son." That is not a dismissal. That is the most tender moment of his life. But the second part is harder. My hour has not yet come. In John's Gospel, the hour is a technical term. It refers to the moment of his glorification, his cross, his death, his resurrection. Jesus is telling his mother, "Once I start this, I cannot stop. Once I perform a public miracle, the clock begins. The road to Golgotha opens. The hour will come, and it will end on a cross." Mary hears all of this, and she does something nobody expects. She turns away from her son without waiting for his answer. She walks directly to the servants, and she says 5 words that will echo through 2,000 years of Christianity. Do whatever he tells you. This is the last recorded sentence Mary ever speaks in the entire New Testament. After this, she never speaks again in any gospel. Her final words in Scripture are a command to do what her son says. Think about what she has just done. Her son has essentially said no. He has told her it is not the right time. And Mary, who has been waiting 30 years for this moment, does not argue. She walks past his refusal and tells the servants to get ready. She is not defying him. She is trusting him. She is saying, "I know you better than anyone on this earth. I know who you are. I know what you can do. And I know that when you see those servants standing there, ready to obey you, you will do what needs to be done." She has spent her entire adult life learning that her son says yes to the impossible. And she is betting on him one more time. And he does. Jesus looks at the 6 stone jars standing along the wall. He looks at the servants, and he tells them, "Fill the jars with water." Do the math. 6 jars, 20 to 30 gallons each. That is between 120 and 180 gallons of water. The servants have to go to the well, fill pitchers, carry them back, and pour them into each jar, over and over, until every jar is full to the brim. This is not a discrete miracle. Jesus could have snapped his fingers and produced a few bottles of wine from thin air. Instead, he asks them to do hard physical labor for what is probably an hour. Then Jesus says, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." One of the servants dips a ladle into a stone jar. Water. He carries it across the courtyard, hands it to the steward. The steward tastes it, and it is wine, not just wine. The steward calls the bridegroom over and says, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and when people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." The best wine of the night, after everyone is already drunk. Somewhere between 120 and 180 gallons of the finest wine anyone has ever tasted. Enough to keep the wedding going for days. Step back, because this moment is the hinge of the entire gospel. John tells us, this, the first of his signs, Jesus did at Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. The first sign, the beginning of the public ministry, the start of the 3 years that will end on a cross. And it started because his mother said 4 words. Not a Roman governor, not a high priest, not an angel descending from heaven with a trumpet. A 30-year-old Galilean woman at a wedding in a village nobody respected leaned toward her son and told him there was no more wine. Every miracle after this, every blind man who saw, every dead girl who got up, every storm that went quiet, every 1,000 that was fed, traces back to this moment. Every sermon, the cross, the empty tomb, 2,000 years of Christianity. All of it started because Mary decided it was time. All of it started because Mary decided it was time. And here is what almost nobody notices. Jesus did not override her. He told her his hour had not come, and then he made it come. Because she asked, because she trusted, because she was his mother and she knew what he could do. Think about what this means for Mary. In the dark room in Nazareth, she said yes to carrying him. In Bethlehem, she said yes to giving birth to him in a stable. At the temple, she said yes when Simeon told her a sword would pierce her own soul. For 30 years, she said yes to raising him in an ordinary village. And at Cana, she says yes one more time. Yes to letting him go. Yes to the public ministry. Yes to the road that ends at Golgotha. Because she knows, better than anyone, what this first miracle is going to cost him. And she tells the servants to get ready anyway. This is not a mother who pushes her son forward because she wants him famous. This is a mother who has been carrying a promise for 30 years, and she believes it is time for him to become what he was born to be, even though becoming it will kill him. The last sentence Mary ever speaks in the New Testament is, "Do whatever he tells you." 2,000 years later, the instruction still stands. Do whatever he tells you. If this changed how you see the wedding at Cana, subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear what Mary actually did at that wedding. And tell me, what hit you hardest? The 4 words she whispered? The moment she turned her back on his refusal? Or the fact that she is telling every reader since then to do whatever he tells them? I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one.